Good afternoon and welcome to the John DeVito Show. I hope everyone's having a wonderful Thursday. Tomorrow's Friday. We're almost there. However, this weekend packs a little bit more stress than some of the other weekends because Monday is Christmas Day. So I'm not sure if all of you have your Christmas shopping done. There's always the pressure of finding that right present for a loved one, the right gift for your kids, especially when you have kids that are little. You've got the pressure of Santa Claus and finding the gifts that are really popular during that time of year. You've got all the family obligations. You've got work parties. You've got all different types of things. Putting up the Christmas decorations, sending out Christmas cards, doing all these different things. And sometimes Christmas becomes painful. And it's unfortunate because Christmas is supposed to be a time that we all look forward to. The real meaning behind the season is obviously the birth of Jesus and kind of just paying tribute to our belief system and things such as that. But I do find that for a lot of people, Christmas becomes a very difficult time of the year where people are just stressed beyond belief. There are so many things to do, there are financial pressures, and it becomes sometimes a very untenable time of year for a lot of different people. Not to mention the people maybe that have lost family members that don't, that are maybe at odds with their family and don't have a place to go on Christmas, or for the people that just don't have money to afford buying gifts and having a big elaborate meal. So Christmas, while it's a wonderful time of the year, can also be a very stressful time of the year. And it is a great time to pay some kindness forward to people. It's also a great time if you have the means, maybe donate some money to charity, volunteer at a food bank, volunteer at a soup kitchen, sponsor a family's Christmas meal. There are so many things you can do at this time of year if you do have means. But now, the purpose of this podcast, I wanted to get on and just talk briefly about maybe some strategies to help us manage anxiety throughout the holidays. Now, I've done some other shows like this where we're looking to maybe help people a little bit. And here, I'm going to try to give you 15 tips on how to curb holiday anxiety and also mitigate the blues. And for whatever reason, sometimes this time of the year is very difficult for people, and it's one of the highest. You see one of the highest levels of depression sometimes around the holidays. So if you're out there and you happen to be listening to my podcast and listening to my voice, understand that you are not alone. If you're feeling anxious, if you are feeling sad or blue, I think it is something that happens to a lot of us at this time of year. And I think one of the things that exacerbates that a little bit is you see all of the people that are celebrating on social media, the Facebook posts, the Instagram posts, for the kids more so the Snapchat posts. You're seeing people celebrating together, and you aren't seeing the stressful times that these people experience during the holidays. You're only seeing snapshots of that 1 second where everyone's smiling and having a good time. And I think sometimes that gets to people a little bit and creates anxiety. You feel like you're lonely. You feel like you're being left out. And those are difficult emotions to deal with. And that's one of the things I've always talked to my kids about is, when I was a kid, if you weren't invited to a party, you didn't know it because there weren't 5,000 posts about that party with you realizing that you were not invited. You just didn't go to a party and you didn't really know anything about it. So there are so many things I think that can create anxiety. You're working. If you're a little bit older, like I am, you may have to take care of your parents. They're getting older. There are so many things that can happen. So let's see if we can talk about some strategies to maybe help, just kind of manage, I guess, stress. And I think, one of the things that you can talk about also is maintaining your health through the holidays. I think a lot of times when you consider the holidays, I mean, when you look at Halloween, you look at Thanksgiving, you look at all these different holidays, and you've got Christmas and New Year's. I think that you end up sometimes eating a lot and putting on a lot of weight and drinking a lot. So nothing worse than getting to like January 2nd and realize you put on like 20 pounds during the holidays. That kind of like builds the the different levels of stress. So here are some tips. I'm going to hit some different areas now. Here are some tips to overcome fear of holiday parties. And I don't know if anyone feels this way, but I don't think I realized until I was a little bit older that I actually have kind of like an anxiety disorder. And it's kind of a strange thing because I work in a field where I have to be very social. And I'm actually really good at being social when I need to be, but I really don't enjoy it. It makes me very anxious to go to social get-togethers and things like that. So, if you're looking at holiday parties, if you've been invited to a few, it's okay sometimes to say no to a Halloween party, to a Christmas party, to a holiday party, if it makes you feel uncomfortable. So make sure you try to choose gatherings, Christmas parties, holiday parties that make you feel comfortable. And remember, it's okay for you to decline a party. You don't have to attend every Christmas party. You don't have to send Christmas cards if they make you anxious. You don't have to buy every expensive gift that someone asks for. Remember, the true meaning of the season is about love, it's about family, it's about spending time together. Of course, sometimes that brings a whole set of challenges amongst itself, but you don't have to say yes to everything. You have to learn how to manage yourself, stay within yourself, and not feel like you have to attend every party and every gathering. Okay? So if you're going to a party, and you're stressed about being there all night, give yourself a time limit that you plan on staying. If you're enjoying yourself, when that time comes around, you can stay longer. But if you go to a party, you can just say, okay, I'm going to go to this party for an hour. I'm going to check in. I'm going to have a drink. I'm going to say hello to everybody, and then you move on. So you've made your appearance. But again, you never know. You may get there. You're there for an hour, and you might run into an old friend or get into a great conversation. Decide you want to stay longer. But I think sometimes when you set it up like that beforehand in your own mind, it makes it more of a smaller bite-sized feel to the party. And then once you get there, you get over that hurdle of walking in the door, then maybe you want to stay a little bit longer. And if you don't, you just leave, and at least you made your appearance and you did your thing. Now, before the social gathering, I think sometimes it's good to contact a friend and maybe have someone come with you if you have to face a large crowd. Like if you're going to a party by yourself, see if you can bring someone with you, a friend, a girlfriend, a spouse or whatever, if you're going to a party, because sometimes it's easier to tackle these larger parties if you're not just walking in cold or walking in by yourself. Then at least you have somebody else you can talk to in some of those down times during the party when maybe everyone else is in other conversations or whatever happens. So also, I think another thing that's really important during the holidays, we talked about it briefly earlier, you got to manage yourself. If you've got parties, manage what parties you want to go to. It's okay to say no to others. But I think it's also important for you to take care of your health during the holidays. And I mean going to the gym if you normally go to the gym, trying to have good eating habits like you normally have during the rest of the calendar year. Because once you get into that habit and you put on 20 pounds over the holidays, it's going to take time and effort to get rid of that. And I think sometimes that plays into stress as well. So don't be afraid again to say no. The holidays are a great time to practice your boundary setting skills. Instead of focusing on what you should do or could do, just focus on the things that you truly want to do and you spend, your time doing so. So, maintain your health. Don't be afraid to say no. And I think, again, if you're working and you're working hard, I'm actually doing that this week, is step away from work a little bit. I took PTO days right off until after Christmas. So today, I promised myself I was not going to check work email. I was not going to take phone calls for work. And I haven't. And honestly, even this one day, just being away from work feels good. And I need to do that the entire time. So I actually took off my phone the little email icon for my company email, and I moved it to the second page. So I don't look at it every time I look at my phone, and I'm just trying to avoid seeing it all together. Because if I look and I see I've got 70 emails, that's going to stress me out. So I'm staying away from that. I'm not thinking about it. It feels good. So if you're gonna take a break, step away from work completely. Don't check on your email. Don't do work, because I think sometimes we all need time to sharpen the saw and just get away from work a little bit. Okay, so another thing I think is important is make sure every day you plan some time to focus on you. We all need me time. We all need time to get away from the stresses of life, even if it's you going for a walk or maybe sitting in a quiet space reading a book, going out by yourself and having a coffee at the local coffee shop. Sometimes it's good just to get away, whether it's 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, whatever you have. plan some time each day to focus on yourself. And I think that's important to stay connected with yourself and just replenish because we all need it. Another thing I think is important is planning. Now, I think a lot of times during the holidays, like I said earlier, people feel lonely. It's easy sometimes to sit and wallow in our loneliness. Let's face it, every year holidays change. Maybe you're missing someone that passed during the year that's no longer around the table. Maybe someone isn't coming this year. Maybe your kids have moved on and they're going to somebody else's house. So instead of just sitting around, try to plan some activities that bring you joy. Go to the movies, read a book, you start a podcast like yours truly. I do that to kind of get my mind active and not think about some of the other things that go in my life. And for me, this is a really good outlet. So, do a podcast. It's fun. I mean, again, I never pretend to be a professional. I get on and talk about the things I want to talk to, and I have listeners. And to me, it's a good thing. I feel like I'm doing something that allows me to be creative. And I think there are certain people that listen to my podcast that enjoy what I do, and that makes me feel good. I don't need to have a big audience. I'm happy with the audience I have, and I appreciate each and every one of you that come in and listen to me. So thank you for that. But, find something that can keep you busy and keep you happy, because sitting alone and being isolated and feeling sad is not a good way to go through the season. And you really need to, I think, get past that and focus on yourself and work on being happy during the season. Now, another thing is, talk to your coworkers about your plans. Talk to your friends about your plans. Maybe if you don't have a close family, maybe you can plan, a Friendsgiving. Now, again, I know that's more of like a Thanksgiving type of holiday, but it could be done at Christmas also. So instead of calling it a Friendsgiving, or you could still call it that, a friend's Christmas dinner or something to that effect, where you bring some coworkers together, maybe bring some friends together and really celebrate some people outside of family that are special in your life. So I think it's a great idea, especially if, maybe your kids have gone to college, maybe your father is no longer with us, whatever it may be. You don't want to sit and wallow. You want to kind of find a way to maybe do something to really enjoy the holiday if you can. Now, another thing I think is great. Now, suppose it's Christmas and maybe you celebrate Hanukkah. Your kids have 2 weeks off from school. You don't celebrate Christmas. Maybe go skiing, plan a vacation, go someplace warm, get away from the cold. That's never a bad thing for me living here in Massachusetts. Or you could just plan a staycation, take some day trips, if you don't want to travel outside of the area. So definitely find some things to do that you're going to find are fun. They're going to keep you engaged and keep you busy during the season where it's so easy to fall into, kind of being sad and being lonely and feeling depressed. Focusing on self-care, I think, is also very important. Again, we talked about time away from work. I think that's important. Maybe go get a massage. If you're a woman, get your nails done. Exercise. Binge watch a show you've been wanting to see. Sometimes sitting in front of the TV and binge watching Netflix is a good thing and helps you replenish. But, if your work is your happy place, maybe you check in at work or do something like that. But you have to make sure that you're taking enough time away to kind of replenish yourself, because all of us need time of recreation. All of us need time away from work. And I think it's good if you take some of that time to focus on your own self-care and avoid some, some just being too busy and just being out there, working all the time, because you have to relax sometimes. All right. I think it's also important around the holidays is to set intentions for the holidays. I think communication is key. And I think, to help avoid assumptions and expectations, there are times that we suffer unnecessarily by making assumptions, or we even fear expectations. It's important to set personal and external boundaries during holidays or celebrations that leave you feel less than comfortable or happy, because it's about being happy. Know yours and others' expectations and what you're willing to participate in. Do not make assumptions that others expect something that you are uncomfortable with. More importantly, know your financial limitations and make decisions on how much money you are spending during the holiday. I can't emphasize this enough. You don't want to end up with 5 months of bills after the holidays. I mean, then it's just a miserable experience for you where you're going to have to work for a half a year to pay these bills off. And that's not what this is intended to be. It shouldn't be all about gifts. So make sure you set up limits, you set up your expectations, and you have all that clear in your head before the holiday season happens. So when it comes to communication, also, I think this is very important. You need to kindly and clearly state what works for you, and you don't need the explanations as why, but only participate in what you are comfortable with and set the proper ground for open discussion, making sure to evaluate your personal needs, excuse me, and create an atmosphere for acceptance. One of the things that I used to always worry about was during Thanksgiving, during Christmas, is something going to come up that creates an argument? Is it going to be religion? Is it going to be politics? Is it going to be a family situation? Is it going to be something that balloons into an argument? And that's something you definitely want to try to avoid during the holidays because that's going to ruin your day. So be clear in your communication. If you hear a political conversation starting up between your right wing and left wing family members, maybe that's something you want to avoid and go out for a walk at that point and try to prevent getting involved with that. So something that's really important. Now, this is a little bit of a touchy one for me, and it's kind of the way I want to deliver it. Now, it says, the list that I was looking at talks about refrain from repeating the Christmas past. Now, that's true, but for me, if you've had Christmases that have not gone well, there have been family fights, there have been things that haven't gone well. I mean, you don't obviously want to repeat those things, but if you have things that are very good from your memory around Christmas that happened in your past, like I think back upon my grandparents' house when I was a kid, it was wonderful, and I wish I could repeat those type of things. So it's good to try to repeat and replicate some of the good things that have happened, but you want to make sure that you're staying away from the negativity that may have happened in Christmases of the past. We talked again about self-care. This keeps coming up on the list. You know, know and honor your own personal space. You need to have time to shut down. You don't have to go everywhere. You don't have to attend every party. Make sure you're taking care of yourself, number one, during the holidays. If not, you're going to be coming up on Christmas and you are going to feel like you can't wait for it to be over. And I've done that before. When my kids were little, I was trying to put up the perfect decorations. We were buying the perfect gifts. We were trying to take the perfect picture for Christmas cards. We stressed over all these things. And literally by Christmas Day, when Christmas was over, I remember my wife and I sitting around saying, thank God that's over. We don't have to do this again for another year. And that's not really the way I want to remember Christmas. So, we stopped doing some of the things that stressed us. We didn't feel like we had to do every single tradition that we had started doing. We stopped sending Christmas cards. It was a pain. Now we send reflectors back to people that send them to us. That's pretty much it. So anyway, hopefully some of these things are helping. We've got so many different recommendations we can make, and I don't want to have this podcast be too long. You can also make requests too. Something I think it's important. I think it's certainly within your permission to make requests that will help you find joy and happiness. Speak to your family and friends or others. Ask for a ride, or ask if they're creating a certain dish, and if they're not, maybe bring something that you prepare. If you don't maybe eat what the rest of the family likes to eat, and maybe they'll be willing to try something new. So don't be afraid to make requests, and if your request isn't filled, maybe you bring something new to the Christmas dinner or something to that effect to kind of make the day go that much smoother. So we're at 18 minutes. I want to keep this below 20, so I'm going to wrap this up very quickly. But remember, I know it's stressful. I know Christmas can be hard, especially if you've lost people. If you have families that don't get along, it can be hard. But remember, try to keep things light. Try to stay away from topics and conversations that are going to create tension. And remember, it's meant to be a great time of the year where you celebrate with your family. And again, if you're stressed and if you're yelling and if you're fighting, those are the memories that your kids are going to remember. The way you act at Christmas time is going to become the Christmas memories that your children carry with them for the rest of their lives. And try to create good memories for your kids. And at the same breath, take care of yourself and make sure that you are enjoying the holiday. All right? So I hope this helps a little bit. I want to wish you all the very best. Merry Christmas. I hope you have a great holiday, a happy new year. And please keep coming back if you enjoy my show. And I would love it if you would tell a friend. Okay, thank you so much again for joining the John DeVito Show. I love all of you, and Merry Christmas.